Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, where today, in an all Tier 9 battle here on the mountain range map, we're going to be taking a look at the Italian Tier 9 battleship, the Lepanto. It's driven for us today by Stinky. And while Stinky is the star of today's video, because he's the one who sent the replay in, this is more a team effort. In particular, two of the cruisers, the Rune and the Neptune, one of the destroyers, the Z-46, and see if I can get his name right, Iskander, the captain of the Tier 9 British battleship HMS Lion. Not a ship that you traditionally see people doing particularly well in. And yet, well, the results of this battle will speak for themselves. Because once again, and you've probably already guessed from the title, so this isn't really going to be much of a spoiler, but we are again going to witness a throw of epic proportions. I was starting to feel like I was getting a bit typecast with all of the Game of Throws and try-hard videos that I've been doing, but, well, most World of Warships battles end up in massive throws of people just trying way too hard, so I think I'll be okay for the foreseeable future. It's not like I'm exactly spoilt for choice. And while this is not the biggest throw that I've ever seen, it's definitely up there with the best of them. So, while things are getting started, Stinky in the Lepanto. What do you need to know about the Lepanto? Tier 9 Italian battleship. And in common with the other Italian battleships, their gimmick is that they do not have high explosive shells, or at least not on the main battery guns. The secondaries fire high explosives, but the secondaries are such low caliber that the only thing that they're good for is setting fires. They're not going to damage anything. Instead, they have access to the armor-piercing and the semi-armor piercing shells. And I suppose the semi-armor piercing shells can be thought of as high explosive shells that don't actually do any splash damage. They don't have as much penetration as armor piercing, but they do tend to more reliably do damage, particularly against cruisers and lightly armored battleships. You can do a lot of damage with these 15-inch, that's another issue, but more on that in a moment, semi-armor piercing shells. That's the other thing about the Lepanto. It's a Tier 9 battleship that only has 15-inch guns. 15-inch guns on a battleship at a tier where most other battleships have 16-inch guns at least, 1, 2, and in some cases even 3 tiers lower. Also, the accuracy isn't great, but she does get a lot of them. 3 quadruple turrets, 12 of these 15-inch guns, which means that the Lepanto is kind of best used as a medium-range battleship, because the accuracy just doesn't hold up at long range. Also, the range is only about 18.1 kilometers, so it doesn't really have particularly long-range guns. It does have a spotter plane, however, to make up for the not fantastic main battery range, but the questionable accuracy means that you really do kind of have to get to medium range wherever possible in order to make the most of these 12 guns. Destroyers are probably your biggest threat if you're in a Lepanto, because she doesn't have any hydro, although she does have very, very good torpedo damage reduction. I think it's second only to the Masashi. But if you can avoid getting torpedoed at all, sounds obvious, I know, that would be better. And the necessity of having to close to medium range in order to make the guns work does make the ship more vulnerable to enemy destroyers. She does have that Italian high-speed smoke generator, though, the exhaust smoke generator. And it does have good duration, 50 seconds. But the downside is you're a battleship with a smoke screen generator, so it only really works if you're not firing your guns because of the smoke firing penalty. The problem that Stinky's having here, actually he's having a couple of problems, and they're big ones, is that he is heavily outnumbered on this flank, so he can't really afford to close into the range where his guns are going to be at their most effective. His other problem, and it's related to the first one, is that his only backup over here is a lone destroyer. Well, there was an Alaska diverting to this side of the map, but he just got nuked by the enemy Izumo. I'm not even sure if he was diverting to help defend this side of the map or he was just running away from the enemy Izumo, but either way, he's dead. Now, normally, when the threat chiefly consists of battleships like those two Iowas, a destroyer is a significant deterrent. Not so much when that destroyer is a Friesland, or Not so much when the enemy battleships realise that that destroyer is a Friesland, because while the Friesland's main battery gun DPM is surprisingly good for a ship with only 2 gun turrets, it doesn't have any torpedoes. And so the second those battleships realise that they have absolutely nothing to really fear from that extremely angry looking smokescreen, and of course they have realised that they have nothing to fear from that not quite as angry as they may have first believed smokescreen, because the Friesland got spotted by the Oosterjotland, they're just going to charge the smokescreen, because they know there's no torpedo threat. There's also a Buffalo over there, so even if the Friesland tries to seek shelter inside his smokescreen, he's just going to get radared. If he has any sense at all, he's just going to run south, which is exactly what Stinky's done, because he can see the writing on the wall. They're outnumbered 2-1 here, and there's no real deterrent to stop those battleships from pushing in. Now, you could easily be forgiven for thinking that if they're outnumbered 2-1 over here, the rest of the team should be ruffle stomping everywhere else on the map, because they have the numerical advantage there. And with everything else being equal, that would be the case. But a quick look at the scores and the caps. Clearly everything else is not equal, because the enemy team have not only taken control of all 3 of the caps, and they're also pushing south through the caps, maybe trying to win a little harder than they absolutely need to, but time will tell whether or not that's in fact the case. But what it means for now is that if anybody on Stinky's team is going to try to do something about taking control of those cap circles, they're going to have to fight their way through the enemy team in order to do it. The Friesland couldn't take the hint, and he's dead, which means that all of those enemy ships, the Siegfried, the Buffalo, the 2 Iowas, and I'm pretty sure there was an Oosterjotland up there as well, now have nothing to stop them from hooking down to the south and then getting themselves into a crossfire position on the remainder of Stinky's team, who have all been herded into one corner of the map. And you know what happens when ships start getting caught in crossfires? Ships start getting sunk, because you can't angle your armour against fire coming in from 2 different directions. And Stinky's Lepanto just does not have the DPM to hold that lot off by himself. The Lepanto can hit pretty hard, but its reload is really, really bad. It's second only to the Minnesota amongst Tier 9 battleships. Nevertheless, Stinky understands the danger posed by those enemy ships moving south from Cap Circle Alpha. So even though he's not really in the best equipped ship to deal with that kind of threat by himself, he's going to have a damn good go, because somebody has to. And while he's busy drawing the line in the sand over here, somebody else on the team is going to have to strap their man pants on and do something about the enemy team having control of all 3 of the cap circles. And to be completely fair, over there on the eastern end of the map, there's a Prinz Ruprecht and a Tashkent trying to do exactly that. Now, the Tashkent did just lose a gunfight against the Kitakazi, who's tucked in behind the island just to the north of the Prinz Ruprecht, which is nothing to be ashamed about. Most destroyers would lose a gunfight against the Kitakazi. And with the Kitakazi still tucked in behind the island there, the Prinz Ruprecht is going for it, because, well, somebody has to. And I did think that the Prinz Ruprecht over there was just going to sail straight into the Kitakazi's torpedoes, but, well, either the Kitakazi's torpedoes were on cooldown because it had launched them against the Tashkent, or the Prinz Ruprecht just managed to avoid them, because that Kitakazi is going down. And with the Kitakazi down, that unlocks the door to Cap Circle Charlie, which is not undefended. There are still 3 enemy ships up there, 2 of which are Tier 9 battleships, but the team are going for it, with the charge being led by the Prinz Ruprecht, backed up by the Z-46 and the Iowa. Meanwhile, Stinky turned to face the developing threat over on the western flank, just in time to dodge torpedoes launched, I think, by the enemy Neustrashimi. Takes minimal damage from the Siegfried's armor piercing, which was fortunate because, well, he could have taken a lot of damage. I suppose the good thing about the Lepanto's slow-assed reload is that it gives you plenty of time to think about who to shoot next, and what better target than an enemy cruiser at medium range, the ideal range for the Lepanto's 15-inch guns. This is gonna hurt. He's popped the high-speed smoke. Obviously he's still detected because he just fired the guns, but the slow reload is actually going to come to bite him in the arse here because it gives him plenty of time to go undetected, which means he can't see out of the smoke screen. Somebody needs to spot and finish off that Buffalo. This is where he launches his spotting plane. The Buffalo's obviously stopped shooting, so none of the cruisers to Stinky's rear can see him because he knows what's good for him, but he just didn't have the turning circle to be able to get back into cover, and he's stuck up against the island. But now that he's been respotted, the Neptune and the Rune should be able to finish him off. Come on, Neptune, Rune, one of you finish him off. Come on, one of you please finish him off. My God, it really shouldn't take this long to finish off a low health Buffalo, because Stinky has other problems. There's an Iowa and a Siegfried. Okay, the Buffalo's down. Siegfried obviously a much better target than an angled Iowa. And Stinky cannot slow down here because there's another Iowa coming around the south of the island. And that Iowa will have his broadside to shoot at and will blow him clean out of the water. So he's angling as best he can against the Iowa's guns. And he's going to want to finish that Siegfried off. Can he get him before the Siegfried gets into cover? He's buying himself some time by motoring forward. Not all of his guns have clearance, but it's only probably going to take one turret. Shots out. He's got him. Now, here's the problem. This is the dilemma. You're behind on points. You were more than 600 points behind until you sank the Siegfried. But you do not want to trade against the Iowa, because that's a points neutral exchange, battleship for battleship. It isn't going to do anything to shift the points in your favour. The problem is that the Iowa has more than double his health and has just knocked out one of his gun turrets, which has just halved his forward firepower, and there is no way he is going to win this gunfight. If he tries to go around the Iowa, he's going to die, and he won't be able to take the Iowa with him. So he doesn't want to go for the ram, and the Iowa's reversing. He obviously doesn't want to be rammed, but at this point, he really doesn't have any better options. So he goes for it, and at the very least he takes the Iowa with him. So, Stinky's down. Pretty good flank defense, almost all of it by himself. Don't really think there's anything there for him to be ashamed of. The second Iowa's been forced back into cover by fire from the Rune and the Neptune, and watch this new Strashimi. What the hell is he doing? He saw his torpedoes go by. They completely missed everything. I guess he thinks he can take the Minnesota in a gunfight. Not news for him. He can't. So... yeah. Suddenly the enemy team, while they're still hundreds of points ahead, they're down to their last 3 ships. They do still have 2 of the caps. They've lost Charlie thanks to the push spearheaded by the Z-46 and the Prinz Ruprecht, and although it did cost them the Prinz Ruprecht, they've taken that cap circle. The Z-46 is on a sliver of health, however, and he's clearly spotted because the Buffalo up there is shooting at him. The Minnesota here is on a sliver of health, but the Minnesota and the Lion have the sense to know that they must take that central cap circle before they die. And turning into the cap like this also has the benefit of allowing them to bring all of their guns to bear on this Buffalo, who has lost sight of the Z-46. But here's the problem. Turning like this to provide cover for the Z-46 and flip this cap circle means that they're both presenting big, nice, fat, juicy broadsides to the Iowa's 16-inch super heavy armor piercing shells. Which Iowa? Glad you asked. The one who's down here somewhere. But what's he doing? Meanwhile, the Neptune and the Rune are trying to catch the Osterjotland, because they don't want a destroyer sneaking up behind them, not least of which because they're not fond on torpedo enemies, but also because, well, the destroyer can spot them. And there's an Iowa over there. You can see his torpedoes. They know where he is. Okay, the Iowa did pop out and he did sink the Minnesota. Makes sense, the Minnesota was on the lowest health. But he didn't get any shots into the Lion. And the Lion and the Minnesota between them managed to flip that central cap before the Minnesota went down. The Osterjotland gets spotted. Caught between a Rune and a Neptune. This is not going to go well for the Osterjotland. But he very, very nearly gets away with it. Watch this. Stinky's going to switch the camera perspective to the Osteotland in a second, right as he goes undetected. But he goes undetected. Check this out. Just as the rune's second salvo hits him with at least one high explosive shell, sets him on fire, which increases his visibility right after he went dark, which means surely between the two of them they have to finish him off now, and they have. The thing is, with 4 minutes to go, the enemy team still have a 500-point lead. And I don't think you can make up 500 points in 4 minutes, even if you have all 3 of the cap circles. And they don't have all 3 of the cap circles. So at this point, of course, the best option for the enemy team would be to just disengage. The Buffalo is taking his sweet time working this out. The Z46 has managed to retire to a safe distance and is just keeping him spotted. I thought for a second there that the Iowa had taken the hint, but he just popped up on the map, presumably because he couldn't resist the opportunity to shoot at the Lion's broadside, although looking at the Lion's health, he either missed or he didn't do a huge amount of damage. The Buffalo is also ensuring that he remains detected by shooting at the Lion too. I guess they really don't want the Lion to take that cap circle. The Lion, however, is equally determined that he is going to take the cap circle. And if the Iowa objects, the Lion is definitely up for a fight, because they pretty much need to sink everybody in order to win. And it looks like the Buffalo has just realised this. And I don't know if you've been paying attention to chat, but there's some extremely rare communication, teamwork and leadership going on here. Mostly, it has to be said, credit where credit's due, from Iskander, the captain of HMS Lion. Stinky himself was saying there in chat, yeah, we've lost this, there isn't time. Iskander in the line is having none of that. He's staying calm. He's telling the team what they need to do. He's going to deal with the Iowa. He's going to flip that cap at Alpha, which will at least stop the enemy team from winning on points. The cruisers need to get that Buffalo. The Z46, even without being told, is shadowing the Buffalo to ensure that he can't go undetected, at least not easily. Instead of running, which I thought he was doing, it looks like the Buffalo's up for a fight. Oh well, if you insist. Iskander in the Lion has flipped Alpha, which means that the enemy team have now been stopped dead at 944 points. With the time remaining, there is no way at all that Stinky's team are going to win on points. They do need to catch and sink both of these enemy ships. And the Iowa, as the Rune and the Neptune steam north at full speed in order to oblige the Buffalo, who thinks he's going to win by flipping this cap. Well, he might actually. It's not a terrible idea. But 3 against 1? Not going to happen. Not unless he sinks somebody. Which he might actually do. But he's sailing in the wrong direction. If he turns to sail in the right direction, he's going to get broadside. Unfortunately, the Neptune's gone the wrong way around the island, so he's not able to directly back the Rune up here. And the Z46 isn't going to shoot because the Buffalo would nuke him, and the team can't afford to give away the points. So the Buffalo did actually have a very good chance of winning this. Just as the Neptune starts to get shots, the Buffalo risks the turn. The Z46 risks opening up because they need to sink this guy. That was actually a well-executed turn from the Buffalo. And the Buffalo is now torn between holding fire and going undetected, or killing the Z46. And his decision to hold fire is probably the only thing that kept the Z46 alive, who manages to reverse out from behind the island over there just in time to catch sight of the Buffalo. There is less than a minute of the game left. If that Buffalo goes undetected again, they will probably never catch him. The Z46 can't follow him too closely because he may still have radar left. Oh, he's going for the kill on the Z46. This means he's going to remain detected. Can they finish him? He hits the Z46 and doesn't kill him. He fires again. The Z46 gets away with it. The Buffalo, Oh, that was a poor decision. Although you can't really blame him under the circumstances, but he does not. But even that's not going to be enough. They need to sink the Iowa as well. And that is going to be all on the line. With the time remaining, he's going to get one shot. So he better make it count. And with 5 seconds left on the clock, he does it. So, well done, obviously to Stinky, for pretty much single-handedly defending a flank outnumbered 4-1 there. But also, of course, to Iskander in the Lion for his sterling leadership and the teamwork displayed by the Z46, the Rune, and the Neptune. But here's my question. At what point do you think the enemy team threw that game? Because I don't think you can really blame the Buffalo. He was just trying to do the best that he could with the shit sandwich that he'd been served by the rest of his team. So have yourselves a think about it, and I'll look forward to reading the comments. In the meantime, as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.